Hi sweet friends, welcome back. Today I am super excited to share with you the steps and the tips that we used in transforming our dated, dreary, drab looking old table into a cottage farmhouse style piece of furniture. You'll definitely want to stick around to the end to see how it turned out. If you're new here, hi, my name is Amy and welcome. And if you're a returning friend, as you can see, we are in for a treat because sitting next to me is my sweet husband, Scott.
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be here and to help Amy with this project. I really hope you enjoy it.
And if you do, go ahead, give me a big thumbs up, and don't forget to let us know down in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed today's content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you back. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to this table transformation. So here is the table we'll be refinishing. I wanted to give you a few close-up shots of the wear and tear, scratches and scuffs that our family has created on this wood table. All in all, it's not in terrible shape, but we're excited to transform this piece with some paint and stain and to update it and give it new life.
Now it's time to remove the screws from the tabletop. We want this to be in the garage because staining and stripping is extremely messy. So I'm going to finish taking these screws out, and then I'm going to get the help of my son, and we're going to take this down to the garage.
As with all projects, there's always lots of prep work before you actually begin. It's important not to skip out on these steps.
Here I'm taking some blue painter's tape to mask off the top edge to prevent a huge mess. Once the stripping and staining is finished, Amy will be painting this part the same as the base, which you will see a little later.
While Scott is finishing up with the tape, I'm prepping the base of the table for paint. Before painting any furniture surface, we like to make sure that it is clean and degreased, and the product that I'm using today for this is called the Original Crud Cutter.
Next up is stripping the old varnish and stain from the top of the table. We are using a product called Citrus Strip and applying it with a paintbrush. The product does recommend wearing gloves, but as you can see, I did not, so maybe you better follow their directions. The product has a sticky consistency like Elmer's glue. Make sure to apply plenty of Citrus Strip because it has a tendency to dry out, and when it does that, it doesn't work very good. Although it claims to be without harsh fumes and safe for indoor use, I have to say I was glad to be in a well-ventilated area. They suggest to cover the area with saran wrap or plastic wrap of some sort. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're going to let it sit overnight, approximately 8 hours or so.
For the base of the table, I'm using this Zinsser all-purpose primer and sealer, and what I love is that it sticks to all surfaces without sanding, and I can top coat it in an hour. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint all of the surfaces, getting into every little nook and cranny with the primer so that the paint will adhere very nicely. For For all my painting projects, I like to use a 2.5-inch angled brush. This one here is a Purdy XL Glide. It's my favorite. You can get this at Sherwin-Williams and also on Amazon. And I have a tip for you when cleaning your brushes. I like to take liquid Tide, and then I just add a little bit of fabric softener, like a couple drops, and that will soften and release the paint very nicely, and you are going to be able to keep these brushes looking new for years to come. So go ahead and try that tip out and let me know down in the comments if you've actually ever tried this and if it works for you. Here's what the base looks like after one coat of the primer. I will be adding two just to make sure that it is nice and sealed and that it has a great surface for the paint to adhere to so that it will be nice and durable.
Now that Amy has finished the first coat of primer on the base, we're going to take our saran wrap off and begin stripping off this old varnish and stain. I will say there's a few areas that dried and I wish we would have put a little extra citrus strip on it, but I'm going to continue to work with this and we will need to put extra stripper on it to get the final desired look.
Here is the paint that we are using for the base of the table. Now it is a urethane trim enamel in the Emerald brand from Sherwin-Williams. The color is called Navajo White, so if you're wanting the same color, you can just pause and screenshot it and take it to your local Sherwin-Williams to get the same warm white for your project. Now this is the same paint that we have used throughout our home. We used it for our kitchen cabinetry as well as the trim, and I highly recommend it. It works so good, especially for high traffic areas. It has held up wonderfully. Here's a close-up of how it looks after just one coat, and just like the primer, I'm going to be adding 2, maybe even 3 coats to make sure that it has even and uniform color. Now what I love about this paint too, it is very thick, so you're not going to have lots of splatters and spills, and it really fills in your brush strokes. Now the first coat you kind of can't tell, but when we did our cabinetry, it just seemed to set up and you didn't even see the oak graining in this paint. So again, I highly recommend it for any of your woodworking projects. Another very useful tip that I wanted to share with you is that instead of having to clean your brushes after every coat, grab a sandwich baggie or saran wrap and place your wet brush inside. Roll it up tightly and stick it inside your refrigerator until it's time to recoat. This has saved us so much time. And we've also did this with our paint rollers, and it has been fine to paint with even after several months.
Here are the sanding products we're going to use to finish out our project. We're going to start with a coarse 100 grit, 120, 150, and a fine 220 to get it butter smooth. I'm using 2 different sanders. One is called a mouse, which is more for fine detail work because it has that point on it. And then the other one is an orbital sander, which is a little more aggressive and gets those tough, hard to sand areas. Now remember, this is a long project. Even with all the sandpaper, all the sanders, the stripper, it is tedious. It is slow. Be patient with it. Continue to work with it to get the look that you want, and in the end, it will be beautiful. Now for the pre-stain. I really think this makes a big difference. It allows the stain to penetrate better and much more evenly. The way that you're going to use this is apply it with a rag, let it sit for 5 to 15 minutes, then wipe it with a clean rag. Now you must remember to apply your stain within 2 hours of the pre-stain. The stain we're using is by Minwax in the color Provincial. We're going to mix it 50-50 with mineral spirits because we like a more natural look, and this gives it that lighter appearance. You can always go darker, but remember you cannot go lighter. My brush strokes are with the grain, and I'm not going to let it sit for very long. Again, we want that more natural light appearance. The final step is to protect the tabletop, and we're using a Minwax polyacrylic. We're just going to make sure that the surface is clean, and then we're going to apply 3 very thin coats. Between each coat, we're going to wait about an hour, then sand it with a very fine 220 grit sandpaper. Now on the final coat, remember you don't need to sand it.
Now that the tabletop has been stained and polyurethaned, it's time to come in, remove the tape, and paint the skirting of the tabletop the same as the base. I'll be using all of the same steps that I used for the base, so I'm coming in to remove any grime with the crud cutter, and then I'll be applying 2 coats of the primer followed by 2 coats of the paint. Okay friends, let's remember our old drab dated kitchen table before, and here is the after result of our beautifully refinished cottage farmhouse looking table. We did want to mention that we went ahead and put 3 coats of polyurethane over the painted base, just to make sure that it is nice and protected as well. I hope you all enjoyed seeing this table transformation and that it was helpful. If you did, as always, I would appreciate a big thumbs up before you go. Also, I must give a special thank you to my sweet husband, Scott, for helping me out with this video. Before I go, I want to leave you with today's Bible verse, which comes from Psalm 51:12, and it reads, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation and uphold me with a willing spirit." Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Take care and God bless, friends. Bye.